try to say something little in your language. Bine ați venit! Okay? So, let me thank, before to start, the following people that made possible this second edition of Ziua Chitarelor, Ziua Chitarelor 2. First of all, Sorin Oprescu. The amazing Claudia Berlani. And last but not absolutely least, my friend Corrados Gandura and his guitar and bass disciplines. Go! As you know very well, because of the booklet, we have full of guitars and guitar heroes, of course. So I made it short, this speech introduction. We have master classes, we have an amazing guitar contest with fabulous guys, and we have concert and special jam at the end. So let's introduce the first of the guitar heroes, I can say it. He flew the longest way to be here. He comes from Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, Garsed. In the meanwhile, he takes position. I have to remember what he did. He started with DJ Helmerich with Quid Pro Quo, then Exempt, then Under the Lash of Gravity, then Uncle Mo's project with none less than Gary Willis, Scott Kinsey and Dennis Chambers. They recorded 2 records, Uncle Mo's Space Ranch and Mo's Town. Then his own project, Big Sky, and of course his participation to Planet X project, the first album, and Quantum. He plays guitar. Then the 2 videos, the first one rock fusion and the second one rock improvisation, where you can also see Brad perform 6 tracks live. Okay, let the guitars do the talking, ladies and gentlemen. Brad Garsed.
guitar players in this room. must sit down. And thanks for coming out. Great attendance. Thanks to Corrado for putting this event on. It's my first time in Romania, so thanks for having me. I'm a very jet-lagged person, I've got to tell you. 30 hours in an Air France flight, and they lost my luggage, so don't fly Air France. And don't come near me because I've been wearing the same clothes for 3 days, so you don't want to go there. So. I don't really have anything prepared as far as any sort of clinic presentation goes. I just figured I'd get up and play a few tunes, and I normally just ask people if they've got any questions about anything, and I sort of just do that. I don't know if this is really the place to do it. I hope so, because otherwise it'll be a long time. But I usually encourage people to ask questions about not even necessarily me and my playing, because I would never take for granted that most of you would know who the hell I am, but just generally about being a musician, a professional musician, and the challenges and the up and the downs of that life. I've been doing it for nearly 30 years now, and it's been a fantastic experience. I really love playing music, and to get to be able to do it in a somewhat professional manner is really truly a blessing. I mean, I spent 7 years of my life when I was younger as a plumber. That was my trade. So, I had to get up every morning and go to a job I didn't really like, and to be able to get up and say, today I'm going to play the guitar, and maybe I'll be able to do it for somebody, and they can pay me a little money and allow me to make my living that way. It's a beautiful feeling, it really is. So, I don't know, anyone got any questions about anything? Don't be shy, I've come a long way.
When did you start?
What's that?
When did you start?
Oh, when did I start playing? I think I was about 10 or 11 years old when I first attempted to play, and I think when I was about 12 I realised I was absolutely addicted to it. My family went away on a vacation for about 2 weeks, and I didn't take the guitar, and I've never been through the withdrawals like it. It was shocking. We came back home, and I just ran and grabbed the thing and started to play it, and that's when I realised my fate was sealed. It's the greatest thing though. Like, I mean, ever since that age, ever since 12 years old, I'll be 47 soon, so I've been around a long time. In all that time, I've never been bored or lost for something to do. I mean, I play music for a living, but also I play it for my own enjoyment. I write songs and explore the instrument just because it makes me feel good, and it's what I like to do. And when I need a break from that, I go watch TV or do whatever else, spend time with my family. But I've never ever sat there and thought, I'm bored, what can I do? Maybe I should buy a motorbike and ride it off a cliff or something. You see people, they especially when they start to hit the 30s and that sort of thing, the old midlife crisis, and they start to buy speedboats and jet skis and dumb rubbish like that, go and hurt themselves, It's like, I just buy more guitars and amps. That's what I buy. But yeah, it's just once you decide to become a musician, it's beautiful. It's always there. So no matter what I do for a living, I mean, if music's in a strange place right now with as an industry, it's going through some sort of transition. I don't think any of us really know where it's going to end up. But if I can't do it for a living, and I have to do something else, I'll always play the guitar. I'll always have a guitar and an amp, and a way of recording my songs and getting them out there somehow, not just because I have to do that. It's what I want to do. And it's a great thing. I wish all young people could get involved in it, because it kind of keeps you out of trouble, kind of. Come on, something else, this is good. What's that? Do I still have my first guitar? No, my cousin has it. It was a piece of rubbish anyway, so I sold it to him. His family, they're expected to put up with it. No, he's still got it. I keep trying to get it off him, but he won't give it to me. So it was a great guitar. It was a semi-acoustic made by Maton, the Australian guitar company, the brand that Tommy Emmanuel plays. It didn't quite sound as good as when I played it didn't quite sound as good as when Tommy plays it, mate, and I thought it might have been the secret. But yeah, keep coming, come on, let's have a chat. Sorry man, I'm a deaf old rock musician, you'll have to yell out. Oh, the slide playing. God, so I was hoping someone would ask about that. I'm so nervous to come here. It's like, I'm friends with everybody that's here. I know Richie from years ago, Andy, Greg, William, an old friend of mine from way back, and Michael I've just met sort of for the first time. The nicest guys, you know. It's such a reassuring experience to meet amazing world-class players, and they're world-class people too, you know, not an ego in sight, it's just brilliant. But yeah, I think I said to Andy for a joke, I said, none of you guys play slide really, do you? Thank God for that. So, yeah, I first heard slide guitar, I actually saw it being played on TV by an Australian band. It was a band called Little River Band, back when I was very young, at 14. And I loved the sound of it, and I just saw the guy had this chrome thing on his finger, and I thought, well, that looks pretty cool, I'll go and buy one of those. So I went to the music shop and I bought one. And then luckily, just after I got it, I saw Joe Walsh playing Rocky Mountain Way, a classic slide tune. And I was watching him on TV. You got to understand, like, this was back in the mid-70s. You know, there was no internet, and there was barely, we had 2 TV stations. We could get 3 if the wind blew a certain way on a certain day. But we mainly had 2 TV stations, so I'd sit up all night just to hope they might play 5 minutes of music that I could look at. And I just got lucky, and I saw this great live clip of Joe Walsh playing Rocky Mountain Way, and I saw, okay, he's playing slide, and I noticed he wore it on his middle finger. He's one of the few, like I think Jeff Beck, Bonnie Raitt, and Joe Walsh, and I suppose now me, one of the few people that wear it on their middle finger. Almost everybody else puts it either on their 3rd finger or 4th finger. I think Derek Trucks and Sonny Langridge put it on their 3rd, and a lot of blues players put it on their 4th. But anyway, I saw Joe do that, and I thought, alright, so I guess you shove it on that finger. If he's doing it, that's good enough for me. And then of course, tried to do it, and it was just god awful, dreadful. It's like 1,000 cats being strangled. And, I'm just joking, not any animal lovers here, I don't strangle cats. But, yeah, so it was just dreadful. I talked to a friend of mine about it who was a little older than me and a little more experienced, and he said, well, you need to tune your guitar to an actual chord. And he explained it to me. He said, yeah, tune it so that when you strum it openly like this, it actually sounds like an E major chord. So you get that sound. And so I had to buy another guitar because I was playing a Fender at Strat at the time with a floating bridge, and that was, you try and retune those things, it's a disaster, as we all know. But so I went out and I bought a Les Paul copy, and I tuned it to E, and he was right. Like, you could pretty much just sort of bash around on it, and almost everything sounded half decent. You just sort of get in the ballpark, and you could at least play a blues. And it was a great thing because it allowed me to develop the technique, the muting technique, and the control of the thing to where I could make it sound somewhat decent, sort of listenable. And after a while, after I developed a bit of control, I sold that guitar, and I just decided to try playing in standard tune, back in normal tune. But the one thing I really missed about Open E was when you lay the slide straight across on the B string and the G string, you get this beautiful major 3rd interval, like, which is pretty much a standard in all. Joe Walsh did it in Rocky Mountain Way, or he did that. But of course, when you lay the slide straight across in standard tune, you get a. Doesn't work. So I sort of looked at it and I thought, I wonder if that would work. Blow me down, it actually did. It was. So it was great. I was able to continue to play slide guitar on the same guitar that I play everything else on, which really is down to nothing but just sheer laziness, I suppose. I'm just too lazy to carry another guitar around with me. But yeah, I developed that ability to twist the slide so I could get those other intervals. If you work on getting it. kind of an open tuning, somewhat, with in standard tuning. And it's amazing how many times that's actually worked to a huge advantage for me. Like I remember doing a session for a pop artist in America when I was living there, and we did all the rhythm parts and everything. And I remember the producer this was in the 90s, so I mean they'd all gotten over the guitar solo era of the 80s, and we sort of sat there and sort of went, well, I suppose it's time for the guitar solo now. And I thought, yeah, look at this guy. He's got long hair back then. I thought, yeah, a million notes a minute. This is going to be dreadful. And I actually, it was appropriate for the song. I said, how about a slide solo? And he just looked at me and said, you play slide? You play slide guitar? And I said, yeah, I play slide. And so I whipped out the slide and played a solo for him. He just loved it. I mean, you can't overplay playing slide guitar. The crazier it is, the wilder it is, the better. The more people love it. It's just the nature of the sound of it. And the cool thing was, I didn't have to say, oh man, I've got to reach in my guitar, or I haven't got my slide guitar with me. I just pull this thing out and I'm done. I'm ready to go. So it was a great thing. I was really glad that I learned to play in standard tuning, just for that reason, that I always, as long as I had this thing with me, I could play slide guitar if it was called for. Now Derek Trucks does it the other direction, where he plays everything in open E tuning, which is wild. I actually got to jam with Derek in 1995. My good friend TJ Helbrick and I had a band, and we played at the NAMM show for the Washburn company, and Derek was only 15, and he needed a band to back him up, so we played the blues, and Derek got up there and just sort of blew everybody away. But he did. I don't recall him sounding like, I heard him 10 years later when he was an old man at the age of about 25, and I heard him play and just walked out of the room and thought, I thought I could play the slide guitar. Now everything's different. Just unbelievable. Greatest musician I've ever heard. But yeah, I used to get this thing out when I taught at Musicians Institute for a while in Hollywood, and I'd always try to play a bit of slide, because it's amazing how many people it never occurs to them that it even exists, really. They're so focused on, as we all are, focused on getting these digits moving as fast as we can, but it's a great thing. I really encourage everyone to have a go at it. You'll probably fall in love with it, like I did, get addicted to it. But, I would sort of consider my slide influence to come more from pedal steel, really. I think pedal steel playing. I try to develop like little techniques like this. I sort of hear it in that way. Like I listen to Derek, and I imagine he sounds like he's very influenced by the sitar. I think it sort of sounds like he's really into that trip. But I always wanted to play pedal steel, but once again I'm just too lazy to carry them around. They're very heavy, so can't be bothered carrying them. So I try to simulate with this thing. Keep coming, come on.
What do you think about the new wave of Australian bands like Carnival?
What do I think about the new wave of what?
Australian bands like Carnival.
Australian bands.
Yes.
Carnival, never heard of them. But they're probably great. I mean, I don't know. No, I'm sorry, I'm the worst guy to ask about what's new out there. I mean, the newest band I've heard of was Meshuggah, I think that, everyone just keeps talking about Meshuggah. I really dig those guys, they're amazing. I mean, I couldn't really listen to too much of it, but, the Cookie Monster guy gets on my nerves a bit after a while. But the band is incredible, really amazing. I really like playing Meshuggah stuff, particularly to other musicians, especially musicians I know would never in a million years listen to that stuff. I'm really open-minded when it comes to music. I really don't care what it is. I don't have a prejudice against, it's got to be metal, it's got to have guitars, it's got to be jazz. I really couldn't give a stuff as long as it's good, and the people that are doing it for the right reasons, that they want to be good, they want to do it right. If I go see a punk band, I want to see a punk band banging. I want to see them doing it like their lives depend on it. And if I go see a country band, I want to see the same thing. I want to see people involved in what they're doing, and so I don't sit there and go, oh, it's only blues, it's only rock, it's only jazz. It's like, I couldn't give a stuff about that stuff. There's enough prejudice in the world without bringing it into music, But I playing with sugar to people just because it divides people. The amount of people that listen to it just go, I'm not even listening to that. I'm like, I know it's not your thing, but just listen to it. These guys are really good. They're amazing. You know, for what they're doing, they are incredible. Pretty much the best that are out there. But yeah, it's amazing how many people put up a wall. You know, it's very, very strange. But I don't get it. I say music's just music. Oh, the hybrid stuff, yeah. Yeah, the reason, well, there's another story right there. It's like, once again, the mid-70s, you know, I'm trying to learn how to play the guitar, and a friend of mine gave me an album by Leo Kottke, an acoustic guitar player. I don't know if you guys have heard of Leo, he's been around for a long time. Beautiful fingerstyle player, and but it's, you know, it's an LP, it's a record, you can't see anything. And I'm like 12, 13, you know, I don't know anything. No one in my hometown knows anything either. I was the best guitar player in town, and I was lousy. So I mean, I had no one to go to for advice. So I'm listening to Leo, and you know, the only thing I know about the guitar is you use one of these things, like you use a pick. And I'm trying to figure out these songs, all this sort of stuff, and I'm wondering why it's so hard, and I can't get this guy to work, and what's going on, you know? And about 6 years later, after I've struggled away trying to learn these Leo Kottke tunes, I see him, he's wearing a bloody thumb pick, and he's going like this. It's great that the age that you're in now, where you've got instant access to things like YouTube, where you hear something and you think, oh, I'm like researching that, so you can actually visually see it. It was really tough back then, but the upside was I developed quite a bit of facility. There was actually this is funny. There's a Black Sabbath song that had a big impact on me. It was off the Sabbath Bloody Sabbath album. My brother had that album. I just loved it. The cover scared the hell out of me with all the demons and everything, but gave me nightmares as a child. But I love the music, and there's a beautiful piece of music on there that Tony Iommi wrote. I don't know if I can get the guitar clean enough. It was has a clean sound. And it was sort of a something like that. It was intro to a song called "Killing Yourself to Live." Good old Aussie, there it is. But yeah, I love that piece of music, and that was one of the things I was trying to play with the pick. Like if you take the pick away and do it with your, I mean I can't because I'm lousy with that style, but a true acoustic player would be walking the park, because these are the strong fingers, the thumb and these three fingers, the fourth and third finger on both hands, I believe share a tendon, so they're quite, it takes a lot to get them to really play the game, you know. And yeah, I just wondered why it was so difficult to play that. And once again, I couldn't see Tony playing it, so I didn't know. I was trying to play it with a flat pick. But yeah, the cool thing was it gave me a lot of facility with his hand. So I started to. I did study classical guitar when I was about 18 for a little while, for about a year. And I loved the sound of like classical music where they would arpeggiate chords, like that sort of sound. And of course, I was doing it the proper technique. And then when I went to play electric, I found that I was doing it with the pick in my hand. I was starting to approach it like that. And so I realised I developed quite a bit of facility with the technique. And then the next major breakthrough was seeing Frank Gambale's first instructional video back in about 89, I think 1989. I went into a music store that some of my friends worked in, and they used to play instructional videos all the time just to kill the boredom, I think. And they had a Vinnie Moore video on. You did a sweep arpeggio, one of the big, one of them ones. And I'd never seen that before. And I went, Jesus, what was that? And my friend said, oh, that's a sweep arpeggio. I said, God, it's incredible. I've never seen such a thing. And he said, well, maybe you should take this home and look at it. And he gave me Frank's video. And so I took it home and put it in, and just my whole life changed. So the thing that blew me away about Frank was he was sweeping. He was playing more scale-like lines, but on smaller groupings of strings. Like all the metal guys were doing all 6 strings, whereas Frank was actually playing on 2 strings, 3 strings, 4 strings. Because you know, as far as sweeping 6 strings with your fingers, I mean, for me, there's just no point. Why worry about it? Do it with a pick. You know, it just makes more sense. But when I saw Frank doing smaller groupings, I thought, you know, I I could probably cop some of that. I could use some of that, and that's when I started to experiment with looking at the neck this way. Because I'm a legato player, I don't really pick every note. I play a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs, so I tend to think this direction. But when I saw Frank, it was great. I started to experiment with moving across the neck. And that fourth finger thing really came in handy for that. Opened up a whole other world to me with the instrument. All of a sudden, I found I was able to access notes that I never thought I could before. And the great thing was, after seeing Frank and getting that initial inspiration, it was like someone just sort of tapped me on the head with a magic wand and said, "Now you can play like this." Because I had the technique, I just didn't have the ideas. And thanks to Frank, I had this whole other world sitting out there that I could explore and come up with a whole bunch of ideas. So it was pretty cool. And I love the sound of it too. I love how it works well for me, because like I said, I'm mainly a legato player. I don't really pick a lot of notes. So it blends in really well with the soft sound of the legato thing. I think it complements it really well, so that it doesn't necessarily sound like, oh, now he's playing legato, oh, now he's hybrid picking, now he's doing this or that. It just sounds like one cohesive style, which is sort of what I wanted to do, you know. I'd love to be able to play everything, you know. I'd love to be able to play every style, but that's just a dream for me. I mean, for me to try and master any one aspect of technique would take years of effort. I'm just a slow learner, I guess. But what I really wanted to do was borrow from a lot of other places and wrap it up in one thing, and just sort of say, well, that's my thing, you know. So, because Alan Holdsworth has been a massive influence on me, because I was always a legato player. From day one, I thought that that's how you play. I thought you would pick one note and then maybe hammer on the next two and do pull-offs and all that sort of thing. I couldn't comprehend it that people could actually pick everything. And I've been playing this way for quite a few years. Like my cousins and I formed a band in our hometown, and we were playing in the pubs, and people would come along and they'd sort of, you know, people would come along. I was just a kid, you know, the performing child, and they come along and say, "Man, you're a great guitar player. You're amazing. You're one of the best in the world." I listen to him, what are you, high? You know, come on. It's like, don't you can go home and just pick one album out and just go, no, you suck, come on, get real. And but anyway, I thought, well, thanks for that, you know, good luck with the rest of your life. But the thing was with it, I sort of had to learn to improvise on those gigs and all that sort of thing. So I started to develop this facility of the legato thing. So I was playing a lot of single note, a lot of solos and that sort of stuff. And then after about, I think I was nearly 17 or something, 16 or 17, and I read a Frank Zappa interview, and Frank talked about his technique, and he said, well, I'm not really what you'd call I don't know whether he referred to himself as not a good guitar player. He just said that he played the same way. He said, I think he said he wasn't like John McLaughlin or someone like that, and he would do a lot of hammer-ons. And I just thought, my God, I'm a fraud, I'm a fake. I've just been faking it the whole time. And the minute the people in my town find out about this, I'm going to be shamed. I'm going to be run out of town. They're going to tar and feather me. And then I really thought this. This is what gets into the heads of kids, you know. It's like I just thought, well, God, that's it. There's a rule. The rule is you have to pick every note. I've broken the rule. I'm screwed. So I tried to develop it, and I tried for 2 hours and it didn't work. So I thought, well, it's impossible. So. But then I heard Alan, and heard about him through an Eddie Van Halen interview, and I tracked down. Eddie said, yeah, you got to hear the UK album, you got to hear the One of a Kind album by Bruford. So I managed to track down the UK album, and the minute I heard him, I recognised the sound, that legato sound, and I thought, oh, okay. So there are no rules. You do what you want to do. You go after the sound that you hear in your head, and you do that. And it was great. It was a life-changing experience. It was sort of from that moment on that I had more respect for my own ideas. I thought, well, I shouldn't think that I have to play like another person. I should just try and be myself. And that's sort of what I've always done. I've never really bothered to look at another player and think, well, I have to learn that because they're doing something I can't, which is pretty much 99% of all the guitar players on the planet. Probably 90% of the people in this room can do something I can't. So, but I just think you've got to be yourself. If being yourself is being able to play everything, then man, good luck. You know, that's great. I mean, I wish it was me, but it's not. But I am happy with the nature of where I've gone. I just need to practice more. Any more questions? Please don't think I'm rude and I'm looking at my watch because I don't want to take too much time and piss everybody else off. So. Any other stuff? No. Sorry, man, one more time.
How do you keep record of your musical ideas?
Oh, how do I keep record of my musical ideas? I don't. That's the trouble. I've had so many great ideas. I'm just sitting at home practicing, and when I practice, I just generally put on some chord changes and just improvise. That's sort of what I do to practice, really. As is usually with my whole life, I don't have any kind of organised system to it. It's just this chaos that moves through time. But you know, I'll be in the middle of that, and I'll think, wow, that's a pretty good idea. It's a good lick. You know, I wonder what that is. And I must remember that one. Gone. You know, within 5 minutes. Gone. You know? Short attention span. Hey, that's pretty good. Oh, look, a butterfly. You know, gone. But yeah, I don't. I really should catalogue that stuff. And all the great musicians I've met, like Scott Henderson, for example, he's got a book full of transcriptions that he's done. Like a very organised, thorough guy, Scott. It's like and which I think is the path to that greatness. You know, there's all the great musicians I've met are really together like that. So you know, I should have taken a leaf out of that book and kept record of ideas and riffs. And man, that's one thing I'd recommend is absolutely keep some sort of means of. I suppose you can even do it with a cell phone now. Just keep something there where you can record an idea and keep record of it, especially for tunes, for songs. You can never have enough ideas for songs. I read a great Billy Joel quote once where he said you've got your entire life to write your first album and about a year to write your second one. And he's right, you know, like with all the big bands, you know, once they finally hit, that first album really hits and they're famous, the pressure is on because they're touring, and in that, while they're on the road, they're expected to write all the material for the next record. So yeah, you can never have enough riffs or ideas for songs, so record that stuff. Yeah, that would be the way to go, I would say for sure, because I never did it. So from now on, don't listen to anything I tell you. So. Anything else? One more question. I guess I should shut up and I'll play maybe one more tune.
Who's your favorite musician?
Sorry. Stereo. What's that, sorry? Sorry, dude, you'll have to come. Is anyone going to carry a pigeon? Smoke signals. I don't know. Sorry, I'm so deaf I can't hear you. So.
Okay, so I just like that moment when you're on your knees and you're down and light watching that point. So how did you manage to get up and find the light back and pop up?
I think I heard what you said. Like, you mean you're talking about inspiration? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry. No, actually, that's actually quite a profound question. I'm glad you asked it. And you're right. Like, yeah, you go through periods of I read another. You know, you get a lot of great advice from these interviews that the greats do. And I read a great Jimi Hendrix interview from years ago, and he said some days you'll hate the guitar. And boy, he's right. You know, the amount of time I've sat this thing on a stand and just abused it. Terrible thing to abuse an inanimate object for what you do to it. But you know, this happens. Like it happened last week. It happens all the time. You know, I'm playing. And I get so frustrated. I just put the thing down. I quit. You know, that's it. Go out, watch TV. I give it half an hour. It's like, I could go down and pick the thing up, have another go. You know, it's like, you know, it is that. I think it's just that yin and yang of it. You 1 minute you're frustrated, the next minute you're inspired, which leads to more frustration. It's a natural cycle of things. And especially if you're interested in improvising, you've got to acknowledge that frustration and realise it's part of the deal, because you never really figure anything out. Once you've got something mastered, it's time to move on, you know, otherwise you just play the same stuff for the rest of your life. And that's not what improvising is about. It's about moving forward. And whenever you try to move forward, you got to go out into uncharted territory, and you may have to suck for a while, you know. It's like, that's okay, you know, as long as from that process you learn something and you grow a little bit from it, it's all right, it's all positive, you know. Hey, it's like a weightlifter goes into the gym and they finally can lift 200 pounds. What do they stick another 10 pounds on, you know? It's the same analogy. They go, well, you know, I suppose they could look at that and say, no, I can't lift it, so I'm useless. But no, they just keep trying, and eventually they can lift that, and they throw more weight on there, and they're right back in the game again. And that's how I feel about the music thing. It's like the minute I feel I've really accomplished something, it's time for me to up the ante and keep moving, you know. But I think those moments are when you really find out whether this life and this vocation is for you. I was just talking to Richard Hallerbeck about it, and I was just saying, like, if it was about money and fame and chicks and mansions and all that crap you see on MTV, it's like, I would have quit 20 years ago, you know, I just would have quit. I would have thought, well, there's no fame, there's no money, you can make a living, you know, don't get me wrong, and every now and then, once every 30 years, someone asks me for my autograph, but as far as what they present to young people on a garbage station like MTV, which is this illusion that, you know, you can end up like Tommy Lee and have a theme park in your backyard. It's just a lie, you know. I mean, it's like the majority of musicians just make a good, solid living, and they do it. They honestly persevere with it because they just love it. They can't not do it, and that's what Richard and I were talking about. I think it's those moments of despair and frustration when you really find out whether you really want to do this, you know. Hell, if you're making scads of money and people are telling you you're a genius all the time, I mean, where's the issue? You know, it's like, why would you stop? But it's when you feel like you're doing an enormous amount of work and it's only really you that's appreciating it. But then when you sit there and go, yeah, I'm okay with that, you know, it's good. I'm happy with my life. It's a life well spent. You know, I figure, like, you know, if I'd looked at this life of mine and said, you know, I really thought I would have ended up a multi-millionaire and on the cover of Time magazine or something. You know, it's like, well, that's a good thing to shoot for. I mean, aim for that by all means. Aim for world domination and all the rest of it. Why not? But if you don't get it, it's a life well spent, because it's a life spent hopefully doing something you love and striving for something. You know. But if you don't get it, don't say, well, if I don't get this, I'm going to quit. It's like, no, just keep trying, you know. And who knows, you may get it, and if you don't, you've had a wonderful life doing something incredible, which is making music. So, oh man, all right, I should shut up now, I've talked too much. I have to mention, next week, William Stravato will be doing clinics, and William's a good friend of mine, and he's had to endure my playing for many hours. We've done a lot of gigs together, so he knows he knows a lot about what I do and how I do it. So if you happen to be here next week and you need any information about me, William, I'm sure, will be happy to pass it along. So he's a great, amazing musician, a lovely fellow. So anyway, I'll shut up now. Thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you in a few hours, I guess.
Okay, another time, Mr. Brad Garsed. Now we have a meet and greet time with Brad. It's about 10 minutes, no more than. We will introduce the next guest. As he remember, William Serrato will be also a special guest in his performance this evening. So, I see you in 15 minutes maximum. See you later.